No one expected Ethan Voss, the man who built a tech empire from nothing, to offer a stranger money to carry his child, but that's exactly what he did. The day began like every other for Layla, cold, hungry, invisible. She sat on the same bench in the same alley between 8th and Vine, shielding herself with a frayed grey coat as businessmen passed without so much as a glance, until one of them stopped. He wore a charcoal wool coat and leather gloves, tall, square-jawed, mid-30s. His eyes, grey and unreadable, landed on her like she was part of a calculation. "You're healthy?" he asked. She blinked. "Excuse me?" "Your teeth, eyes, no addictions." Layla gripped her coat tighter. I'm not sick, if that's what you're asking." He sat beside her without asking. "You've been here every morning for the past month, always alone, quiet. I need someone like you." She flinched. "Look, I'm not, whatever you think I'm doing, I'm not selling anything." "I don't want to buy that," he said calmly. "I want to pay you to have a child." Layla stared, frozen. She'd heard men say strange things on the street, but never this. "You're insane," she whispered. "Perhaps," he replied, "but I'm also wealthy. Very." A long pause. He opened a leather briefcase and handed her a folder. "Take this," he said. "Read it. My driver will pick you up tomorrow morning at 10. If you're not there, I'll never ask again." Then he was gone. Layla stared at the folder in her lap, her hands trembling. Inside was a legal contract and a check for $5,000. Just for reviewing it, it felt surreal. That night, she found a public restroom with a working lock, curled up on a bench, and read every word. He wanted a child. No strings attached, no co-parenting, just custody, medical expenses covered, a private apartment, and $500,000 upon delivery. Why her? She barely remembered falling asleep. But by sunrise, she was already walking to the pickup point. A sleek black SUV pulled up to the corner right on time. The back window lowered just enough to reveal the same man from the day before. "You came," he said, as if she were 5 minutes late to a business meeting. Layla hesitated only a second, then climbed inside. The vehicle smelled like leather and money. She sat stiffly, clutching the folder like a lifeline. "I read it," she said. "And?" "I have questions." He glanced at her. "That's fair. You'll meet with my legal counsel today. A doctor tomorrow. You'll move in immediately." "Wait," she said. "You think I've already agreed?" He arched a brow. "You came. That's agreement enough for me." She scowled. "I came because you offered $5,000 just to read it. I'm not stupid." "Number." "You're not." There was silence for a while. "I don't get it," she muttered. "You could pay anyone, get a surrogate through an agency. Why me?" He didn't answer right away. Then softly, "Because agencies vet emotions. I want detachment. You have nothing to lose and nothing to gain but money. That makes you perfect." It was cold, clinical, but honest. "I'm not an object," she said quietly. "I never said you were," he replied. "But I'm not looking for a mother. I'm looking for a biological vessel." The way he said it made her chest tighten. Later, they arrived at a towering glass building overlooking the river. Voss Technologies, his empire. Inside, a lawyer in a suit that cost more than her entire life broke down the contract. DNA testing, medical monitoring, financial terms, privacy clauses. Layla asked sharp questions. She wasn't naive. When it was over, the lawyer nodded in approval. "You're sharper than most of our board members." Then came the doctor. Blood tests, scans, questions about diet and history. Layla felt like a specimen under glass. Finally, she was taken to a high-rise apartment. Minimalist, immaculate, silent. "Everything you need is here." Ethan said, standing in the doorway. A personal assistant will bring you food, clothing, anything you request. She turned to him. Do I have any say in the pregnancy? Birthing plan? Anything? You'll be respected, he said. But not involved. The child will be mine, legally and emotionally. Why not adopt? She asked suddenly. He hesitated, just for a beat. Because I want something that shares my blood. And just like that, the truth slipped through his armor. She nodded. Fine, I'll do it. Ethan extended his hand, like she was signing on for a merger. Layla shook it. Her fingers trembled, and the deal was made. Layla's new life was nothing like the one she'd left behind. Each morning, fresh fruit and warm pastries appeared on a white marble countertop. Her closet was filled with clothes still bearing price tags. A private physician visited weekly. The silence in the apartment was expensive. Thick carpets, soundproof glass, and not a single personal item in sight. And then there was Ethan. He visited exactly twice a week, never unannounced, always precise. He brought paperwork, updates from the fertility clinic, legal forms, contracts with more fine print than she could read in a year. Each visit, she tried to guess what made him tick. Do you always live this clinically? She asked once. He didn't look up. Efficiency is my priority. That's not a life, that's a spreadsheet. He finally met her eyes. And yet you signed up for it. Touché. But even as she said nothing, she noticed things. Like the way he barely touched his coffee, but always made sure there was a second cup for her. Or how he flinched when she winced during a blood draw, then quickly looked away. One evening, after another round of hormone injections, she stood alone on the balcony. The city below glittered like a promise she hadn't earned. What are you doing out here? Ethan's voice surprised her. I needed air. You should be resting. I'm not your property, she snapped, more sharply than intended. He didn't react, just stood beside her. You think I'm a monster, he said quietly. She hesitated. I think you hide behind contracts because you're afraid of people. He exhaled slowly. I hired you because I thought I needed control, but I didn't expect you to challenge me. She glanced at him. For the first time, his mask seemed to slip. I'm not here to hurt you, Ethan, but I won't disappear inside your machine either. They stood in silence. A soft wind stirred her hair. He finally said, You're pregnant. She blinked. What? The doctor called this afternoon. The implantation was successful. For a moment, everything stopped. Her hands instinctively went to her stomach. It worked, she whispered. He nodded. A strange stillness passed between them. Fear, hope, something deeper. Layla wasn't just a participant anymore. She was carrying a life, and nothing would ever be the same again. Days blurred into weeks. The pregnancy progressed without complications, but Layla's life was no longer sterile. Something had shifted. Ethan still kept his distance, but his presence felt different, less transactional, more curious. He began lingering during appointments, asking how she felt. Once, he brought her a warm bottle of ginger tea when she mentioned morning sickness. Who knew billionaires read pregnancy blogs? She teased. He didn't smile, but his ears turned slightly red. She started reading parenting books. He noticed. You won't be involved after the birth, he reminded her one evening. I know, she said quietly. But the words hurt. Evenings became their unspoken routine. He'd bring her reports. She'd cook pasta. He never requested it, but he always stayed. Never ate, just sat nearby, sometimes talking, sometimes silent. Why me? She asked once over a steaming bowl. You were invisible, he said honestly. And still, you carried yourself like you mattered. That's a strange compliment. It's the truth. He paused, then added, I needed someone untouched by my world. Someone I didn't owe explanations to. And now, he looked at her for a long moment. I don't know anymore. One night, a storm hit. The windows trembled. Power flickered. Layla, restless, wandered the apartment until she found him on the floor of the guest room, sorting through old photo albums. She hadn't known he owned photo albums. He looked up, startled. Couldn't sleep. Neither could you. She noticed a photograph in his hand. Him as a child, sitting beside a woman with kind eyes. Your mother? She asked. He nodded. She died when I was 12. Heart attack. Layla sat beside him on the carpet, careful not to press. She used to say I carried the world on my shoulders, he murmured. Even back then. He closed the album, gently. She was the last person who loved me without conditions. Layla's voice softened. She'd be proud. He didn't respond, but he didn't deny it either. In that quiet space, amid old photos and thunder, they weren't contract partners. They were two people, scarred, guarded, slowly learning to breathe in each other's presence. Layla's belly began to show. Strangers smiled at her on the street. Delivery drivers wished her well. But Ethan watched her like a puzzle he couldn't solve. She noticed him staring more often, not at her stomach, but at her. You don't have to hover, she said one morning as he lingered after the doctor's visit. I'm not hovering. You're in the kitchen holding a muffin you haven't eaten for 20 minutes. He looked down at the muffin, then at her. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. Be around a pregnant woman? Be involved, Layla softened. You're trying. He nodded. It feels like every move I make, I'm either too far or too close. She chuckled. Welcome to humanity. They shared a quiet smile. But peace never lasted long in Ethan's world. One evening, as she folded baby clothes sent by the company's HR team, an awkward gesture from people who didn't know she was technically a contract, she heard voices, Ethan and someone else, loud, sharp. She moved closer to the hallway. I told you this isn't your decision, Ethan snapped. She's not just a project, Ethan. You're playing with a life, hers and the child's. It was a woman's voice. Layla turned the corner. The woman turned, stylish, poised, furious. You must be Layla, she said tightly. I'm Claire, Ethan's sister. Layla blinked. Hi. Claire eyed her belly. You don't know, do you? Ethan's voice was warning. Claire. Number. She should know. You think this is just about biology, Layla. This baby, this arrangement, it's not just business. It's a replacement. Silence. Like the world held its breath. A replacement for what? Layla asked slowly. Claire looked directly at her. For the child he lost. Layla turned to Ethan, heart pounding. Is that true? He didn't deny it. I had a son, he said quietly. 3 years ago. His mother and I were never close. It was complicated. The boy, he was stillborn. Layla staggered back a step. And I was what? An emotional insurance policy? No, he said quickly. Not at first. But now? She asked. He had no answer. Layla grabbed her coat. I need space, she whispered. She left without another word. And for the first time in weeks, Ethan didn't follow. Layla checked into a modest inn across the city. It wasn't luxury, but it was hers. Quiet, real, no contracts, no watchful gazes. She needed time to think, time to feel. The baby kicked for the first time that night. Alone in a dim room, tears slipped down her cheeks as she pressed a hand to her belly. You're not a replacement, she whispered. You're real. The next day, a box was delivered to the front desk. Inside, a photo. Ethan, holding a small stuffed bear, a hospital bracelet around his wrist. and a note in neat handwriting. His name was Isaac. I never got to hold him alive. I thought creating life again would fill the hole, but I was wrong. Nothing replaces anyone. I see that now. E. Layla stared at the words for a long time. A second note fell from the box. You're not bound to this. The choice is still yours. Days passed. No calls, no visits. But outside the inn, a familiar car waited each evening. Not intruding, just waiting. Layla finally walked out on the fifth night. The window rolled down. Ethan sat silently, eyes sunken with exhaustion. I'm not here to beg, he said. Good, she replied. Because I'm not here to forgive. Yet. He nodded once. I've been reading, he said, about grief and parenting, and how not to screw up relationships. She crossed her arms. Self-help billionaire? He gave a faint smile. I'll take whatever help I can get. Silence stretched between them. Then she asked, Why didn't you tell me about Isaac? Because I was ashamed of how I handled it, of how I tried to erase him by recreating him. Layla studied him. You're not the only one who's lost something, she said quietly. I've lived most of my life invisible, but this baby made me feel seen. He looked at her. I see you now, Layla, not as a contract, not as a vessel, as someone who matters. She took a shaky breath. I'm not ready to come back, she said. I understand. But I'll call. He gave a small nod. I'll wait. And she walked away, not out of anger, but with something softer blooming between them. A seed of something real. 2 weeks passed. Layla called, then called again. Then met Ethan at a quiet cafe where the coffee was lukewarm, but the silence between them was warm. They didn't talk about the contract. They talked about books, music, childhood. You never asked me about the father, Layla said one afternoon. I figured you'd tell me if you wanted. He was a ghost, in and out. I never even told him I was pregnant. Ethan stirred his tea. You're not the only one who got left behind. There was no pity in his voice, just recognition. They began meeting regularly. No driver, no assistants, just them. One morning, Ethan walked her through a small park. Trees blooming, sun warming the benches. This is where I used to come after therapy, he said. You had therapy? He nodded. After Isaac. I wasn't good at it. I never said much. Just stared at the ground. Layla smiled softly. Sounds familiar? He looked at her, serious. I'm learning to look up. She blushed. Then her phone buzzed. Dr. Mehta. Call me. It's important. She froze. Ethan saw the shift in her face. What is it? I don't know. Back at the clinic, time moved like sludge. The ultrasound screen flickered. Dr. Mehta smiled. Heartbeat is strong. Layla exhaled. Actually, the doctor added, adjusting the probe. Heartbeats. Plural. Layla blinked. I'm sorry, what? You're having twins. She laughed, part joy, part shock, part panic. Of course I am. Ethan looked stunned. Twins? Layla stared at the screen. 2 lives, just like that. He stood silent for a long time. Then, to everyone's surprise, he whispered, Thank you. Later that night, Ethan knocked gently at the door of her apartment. I've been thinking, he said. When this started, it was about control, about filling a void. I thought I could build a family the same way I build companies, on strategy. She nodded slowly. But you're not a business model, Layla. And this isn't a transaction anymore. Her voice cracked. Then what is it? He stepped closer. I want to be there, every step, not just as the father, but with you. She blinked. What are you saying? I'm saying I want this to become something real, if you'll let it. And in that moment, the man who once brought silence offered his heart instead. They didn't rush into anything. No declarations, no happily ever afters. Just presence. Ethan came to every doctor's visit. He held her hand when her back ached, learned how to make herbal tea that didn't taste like soil, and even tried assembling a crib, badly. You can design a $10 billion tech platform, but you can't follow an IKEA manual, Layla teased, laughing as he held two identical screws with a scowl. He grinned. There's no logic in Swedish engineering. Their rhythm became easy, natural. They still argued. She hated how he avoided talking about emotions. He hated how she always had to do everything herself. But they grew, side by side. Until one quiet morning, weeks before the due date, Layla felt a sudden tightness, followed by pain, then a flood. Ethan didn't panic. He just lifted her gently, whispered, "I've got you," and drove like a man possessed. Hours later, the hospital room filled with new sound. Two cries, two tiny beings, two lives. Layla held them both, tears slipping down her cheeks as Ethan sat beside her, wordless and overwhelmed. "I don't even know how to hold them," he admitted. She guided his hands. He cradled one daughter, then the other. "They're perfect," he whispered. Layla looked at him. "So are we keeping the contract?" He met her gaze. "Number. We're writing something new." She smiled. Later, back at the apartment, Ethan brought out the original contract. Thick, cold, clinical. He placed it on the table, lit a match, and watched it burn safely in a metal tray. "This is our fresh start," he said. They didn't get engaged right away, didn't move in together immediately, but they built something stronger, trust. And as months passed, they fell, gently, steadily, without obligation, into love. Not because of the deal, but despite it. Sometimes the life you least expect becomes the one you were meant to live.